The rain in Oakhaven Heights always felt like a judgment, a constant gray drizzle mirroring the way I often felt. I'm Serafina Bellwether, 28 years old, and for the last 5, I've been meticulously building a life of quiet, unremarkable contentment. I own a small, struggling bookstore called The Inkwell, filled with the scent of aged paper and the comfortable weight of untold stories. It was a sanctuary, a place where I could lose myself in the lives of others, a stark contrast to my own. My days were filled with the gentle rustle of turning pages, the polite murmur of customers, and the occasional, bittersweet ache of loneliness. I'd convinced myself that a slow, solitary life was preferable to the messy unpredictability of connection. Then, Valentine's Day happened, and everything tilted on its axis. It started, predictably, with flowers. I'd been seeing Amelia Hayes for about 6 weeks. Nothing serious, absolutely no grand gestures, just a comfortable, easy flirtation. Amelia was a potter, her hands perpetually coated in clay, her studio just a few blocks from mine. She was vibrant, unapologetically herself, and frankly, a complete contrast to my carefully constructed reserve. I'd ordered a dozen crimson roses, a stupidly extravagant purchase, but one I felt was justified by the intensity of my burgeoning feelings. I was notoriously clumsy with technology, a weakness that constantly embarrassed me. I rushed the order, fingers flying across the keyboard, and in a catastrophic error I transposed 2 apartment numbers. The roses, beautiful and fragrant, were delivered to Amelia's place, number 317 instead of 319. I felt a pang of immediate regret, a sharp awareness of my own foolishness. I told myself it was a minor hiccup, a small mistake that wouldn't matter. But the silence that followed was unsettling. No text, no thank you, no acknowledgement. Just nothing. The next day the delivery confirmation arrived, a sterile piece of plastic mocking my ineptitude. I figured it was over. Acknowledge the awkwardness, move on. That afternoon, a knock echoed through the inkwell. I opened the door to find Amelia standing there, holding a single, perfectly preserved crimson rose. Her eyes, the color of rich earth, held a mixture of amusement and something else, a deliberate, intriguing challenge. "Hey," she said, her voice a low murmur, "these showed up at my place." I almost threw them out, they were too pretty. Figured I'd try to get them to the right person. Her smile was slow, a curve of her lips that sent a shiver down my spine. "Oh," I managed, my voice sounding strangely hollow. "Wow, yeah, those were for someone who didn't really answer." She laughed, a bright, unexpected sound. "Their loss," she said, and before she left she added, almost as an afterthought, "You've got good taste though. If you ever need help picking out flowers again, I'm right down the hall." It was a ridiculously casual, almost flirtatious statement, and I felt my cheeks flush. I stood there, clutching the rose, utterly bewildered. Did that just happen? Had I, Serafina Bellwether, the woman who carefully avoided any form of genuine connection, just been delivered a tiny, fragrant dose of chaos? The next day, fueled by equal parts confusion and a burgeoning, terrifying curiosity, I responded. I sent her a simple bouquet, 10 cheerful yellow tulips, arranged in a small vase with a handwritten note. "Thought you deserved your own." It was a pathetic, almost childish gesture, but I couldn't stop myself. I knew, with a certainty that bordered on panic, that I had to say something, anything, to bridge the awkward gap I'd created. That afternoon, a slim, rectangular piece of paper slid under my door. It was a sticky note, the kind you find stuck to envelopes or on the back of receipts, and it read, "Do you send flowers to all your neighbors, or was I just lucky?" The audacity of the question, the subtle challenge in its wording, was exhilarating. It was a game, and I realized, with a growing sense of excitement, that I wanted to play. We started meeting for coffee, then longer lunches, then evenings spent wandering through the city, talking about everything and nothing. I learned that Amelia's pottery wasn't just a hobby. It was her passion, her way of expressing the raw, untamed beauty she saw in the world. She, in turn, discovered my love for obscure Victorian novels, my quiet anxieties, and my deeply ingrained fear of vulnerability. We talked for 2.5 hours that first time, lost in a conversation that felt both profoundly intimate and strangely effortless. We did it again the following weekend, and again the weekend after that. Each conversation deepened the connection, layering it with shared laughter, hesitant confessions, and a growing sense of mutual respect. Almost a year had passed since that Valentine's Day blunder. We were together. It wasn't a grand, sweeping romance, but it was real, built on shared moments, genuine affection, and a comfortable, undeniable attraction. Ilya still teased me mercilessly about my typing skills, reminding me with a playful smirk about the time I'd accidentally ordered a lifetime supply of lavender essential oil instead of a book. I still received the yellow tulips every few weeks, a quiet, unassuming symbol of our connection. Sometimes, when I felt overwhelmed by the quiet of the inkwell, or when I was grappling with a particularly difficult emotion, I'd send her a single tulip, a silent offering of comfort and reassurance. It was, I realized, a ridiculous, almost surreal situation. A single misplaced apartment number, a moment of clumsy incompetence, had somehow led me to this, to a life filled with laughter, warmth, and the surprising, profound joy of being truly seen. And yet there was a lingering question, a nagging thought that had taken root in my mind. Had I, Seraphina Bellwether, the woman who'd spent years constructing a fortress around her heart, accidentally stumbled into paradise? Then one rainy afternoon, as I was shelving a new shipment of first editions, Amelia handed me a small, worn copy of Wuthering Heights. "I found this in the attic," she said, her eyes sparkling with a mischievous glint, "and I have a confession to make." She paused, then added, "I've been watching you for a long time." She explained that she'd noticed me, a quiet, observant presence, sketching in the corner of the inkwell, always with a thoughtful expression. She admitted that she'd been fascinated by my solitude, my passion for stories, and the way I seemed to hold the world within my gaze. "I realized," she said, her voice soft, "that sometimes the most beautiful connections are born from the smallest of mistakes." As the rain continued to fall outside, washing over Oakhaven Heights, I realized that my life, once a carefully curated landscape of quiet solitude, had been irrevocably altered by a single, misplaced apartment number. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel a pang of regret. Instead, I felt a quiet sense of gratitude, a recognition that sometimes, the most unexpected moments of joy arise from the most chaotic of beginnings. Maybe, just maybe, Seraphina Bellwether wasn't meant to be a solitary bookbinder, but a story waiting to be written, a story that had begun, improbably and wonderfully, with a single, misplaced number and a bouquet of yellow tulips.